Right on cue, the question was posed to Nate Diaz, and right on cue, he gave an answer that can form a headline. Nate Diaz rips Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor after it was announced that those two were going to be fighting at Madison Square Garden. I'm looking forward to that, UFC 205. But let's get straight to Nate Diaz's quote, and we will pitch it to our panel that we're happy to assemble today. Fuck them both. You know, both those little bitches are afraid to fight me. That's why they are fighting each other. Until Dana, I said, get off Conor's nuts. I left my room to that fight at 176 pounds. So when I thought I was probably 173. Quit telling people I was a monster to make him look good. I've been a lightweight my whole career. Right on cue, gentlemen. What do you think?
All right, a lot to take in. The last sentence is accurate. A lot of fighters feel as though Dana is serving to Conor, but guess what? Those are the times that we live in where Conor is the cash cow right now. So what do? You serve to your pockets and also your agenda to try and make them a little bit more money because, as we know, they just turned a $2 million industry into over $2 billion. So WME is trying to put out their best product. Conor is that best product right now. Nate also needs to cool off a little bit, and I respect the hell out of Nate. I respect anybody that takes this up as a career and as a profession. But to say that they don't want to fight you, Dana said that you're not going to get the rematch with Conor right away. They're putting that in their back pocket as well because they know 2 years down the line, if they want it, that's another cash cow of an event. So they're not going to set up Conor Nate 3 right now. There were 2 other fights that I thought could have been possible, actually 3, for Conor McGregor. The first, and I know it's crazy, is the fight with Floyd Mayweather, only because it would make probably $200 million, and Conor would not have to get the crap beaten out of him when it comes to kicks, inside leg kicks, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's just a stand-up fight. So if he wanted to do it, I believe that they would have had it done. Secondly, I thought Jose Aldo could have been another fight that they could go back to, but as we know, he wants out of the UFC for, in different words, the same reasons that Nate Diaz has. So Nate is going to try to build his brand and build his own product, per se, to be like, hey, I put all my chips in here. I wanted them to do it. Get on my side, not on their side. And that's exactly what he's doing.
So there's 3 reasons or just 2?
Well, how many did I say?
You said,
I think you gave. And the third was Eddie Alvarez.
3 fights that could have happened. Eddie Alvarez.
The third was Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, no, I've accepted the fact that like the rankings don't mean anything in MMA. Like,
you shouldn't believe that they do. We had Mark Ramondi of MMAfighting.com on 120, and he said, "Don't believe in the rankings. They're people who don't really serve to what we believe are the true rankings. Right. They're guys in the media who sometimes watch.
If that's the case, then don't have them on UFC.com. Don't promote the fact that there's challengers. Don't promote the fact that there's a 1 through 20. There's no point in it. Because, by the way, on every single UFC card, when they show you who's fighting, oh, he's the 4th ranked contender versus the 9th. Those contenders don't mean shit. They don't. So I agree with those things. I think we talked about recently the featherweight division and what this fight meant for that. But, of course, everyone seems to be, with a brain, in agreement that, yes, we just talked recently about the NFL being a business. The UFC is a business.
Right.
You promote your best fight.
And this isn't a bad fight, by the way.
No, it's a good fight.
No,
but
it should be
I
fine.
want to play devil's advocate a little bit to the point in rankings. I think that rankings don't come into consideration in unique cases. And the unique cases are when you have a superstar. Right, superstar in Conor McGregor, superstar in Anderson Silva, superstar and fighters that are going to bring an audience no matter if they're #1 contender or not. I do believe that in order to get to that level and get yourself into a fight like a Habib, who has fought and is #1 contender, rightfully so, I think it's 23-0, a remarkable record, deserves a chance. But again, the guy's fought twice in the last 2 years. He's not been fighting the same magnitude of fighters as Eddie Alvarez has consistently to win that belt. And I think when you set up a possible fight with someone that can go in the history books if he wins this fight, McGregor holding 2 belts, it's always going to overthrow rankings. And that, even if they were to pay tribute to rankings in any sport, when you have the ability to make money, I still believe that big names are going to overthrow any sort of merit that you can attach to sport, especially in something that you mentioned, right? 2 million to 2 billion.
It's the first. It's also, I mean, look, it's the first UFC fight in Madison Square Garden.
Irishman.
Put out your best possible product.
The first sanctioned fight for mixed martial arts. I believe since 93.
Is it all MMA? I wasn't sure if there was like Brazilian.
First UFC fight in Madison Square Garden. And that's it. And you've got an Irishman that's going to drown out any sort of American native that you would bring into that arena. Bring in a New York native in there, and Conor McGregor's going to attract the crowd.
Chris Weidman from New York, or is he just the All-American?
No, he's from New York.
Jersey.
No, Jersey? Yeah, he's from that. He's from that area.
Frankie Edgar's on the card too, also from Jersey.
But to get to another point before we wrap up this clip is that a point that I don't agree with on Dana White, you guys might have different views, that he said that Ronda Rousey is still the biggest superstar, still the biggest name in the UFC.
My point being that I'm not sure if she's the bigger superstar, but I think more people know who Ronda Rousey is than people know who Conor McGregor is. And I think that is based off of the fact that she's been in movies, TV, everywhere in the headlines, and almost nothing to do with MMA. Therefore, you're reaching a much broader audience than you are as Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is known across the entirety of the UFC. If you're a UFC fan, you know who Conor McGregor is. However, if you are not a UFC fan, have never tuned in once to it, you probably know who Ronda Rousey is. You possibly don't know who McGregor is at all.
I think everyone knows who they both are. The question is, what usurps Ronda with Conor, or whatever camp you're in, what usurps Conor with Ronda? I think the main thing is, when you think of Conor, he is the new hot thing. He has used his mouthpiece in order to get many, many fights, and that is no knock on him because part of the game is promotions, and that's what he's done brilliantly. But what we have to remember is that there was no women's division until Ronda Rousey was there. She built the entire thing. You know what there's been before? Champions in Conor's division. Champions in other divisions. You know what's never been? A women's bantamweight division and a women's division period in the UFC.
And a woman who's held the title for more than 2 weeks.
Think about this. Tiger Woods, right? We think of him as, for our generation, the best golfer we've ever seen. Others would say that it's Nicklaus, and I get that as well. I agree with them. But think about this. He built the entire, and I know it's no longer a part of golf, he built the entire Nike golf division. That's the sort of water and weight that they both carry in their respective sports.
The only argument I have back is I think that you might be looking at it a little bit too much from the American perspective. That this is an American, I'm just saying, I'll be honest, I think this is an American fighter who has made that division her own, is known most in American movies. Yeah, they'll go elsewhere. You put Ronda Rousey in the street in the United Kingdom, is people going to be drawn to her as much as Conor McGregor, even though he's from Ireland, I get it. No, McGregor took it to new boundaries. He's took the price to different levels. I just think that she was part of the sport as it was growing, and I think that the boom that has hit the UFC has joined with Conor McGregor's boom to the top. I think that he has helped and take it to different levels, surpassing what Ronda Rousey has done in the women's division. I think that the sport has become more of a trend, with Conor McGregor capitalizing on that.
Here's my point to you then. Considering that you're saying that you're using the European example, which is fine, what I think also maybe deteriorates from your argument is that there isn't as many sports to compete with in the United Kingdom or Europe as there are in the United States. We have college football, we have college basketball, we have the NBA, we have the NFL, we have Major League Baseball, we have tennis, we have the NFL, we have so many other sports, and then Ronda's just somehow found her way in there. I think it speaks volumes to what she's done and the impact she's had, considering she has to compete with all those other sports.
And to rebuttal your rebuttal, none of those sports are solely ingrained to the point that one sport holds more weight than anything, that it's even harder to break into a mold away from one sport. Football, football is the sport that we live and breathe. No one else plays any other sport. So I think it's even harder to try and make your name there because people, if you're not a football player, no one cares.
But it's different.
I've lived in it, and no one, a boxer walking down the street will not draw anywhere near as much attention as Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, or any player that's going to walk down. Conor McGregor will cause a similar movement if he walks down the street in the United Kingdom.
You're telling me that Ronda Rousey wouldn't?
No, not as much so as Conor McGregor.
Man, you are so off on this,
dude.
In
Europe and in the UK,
I think you know
what you got to do? Be able to stand out with diversity. In a crowd of 10 people, you want to try and do everything that you can to stand out. Not in a crowd of 2. You're going to already stand out.
I'm telling you that it's harder for me. Your argument is that there's a lot of sports, so it's even harder for her to make her name. And it's harder enough because she's a woman as well, right? I get that part.
Agreed.
Right? Yes. So that plays into your argument. But your argument's talking about how there's so many sports that it's hard to make your name. Why have we not seen as much like these other fighters in an industry? That boxing's very prominent in the UK. We've had a lot of good fighters in the UK, but none of them have even seemed to move football away from it. Like, you don't carry as much as a crowd. Like, football players are tweeting, watching Conor McGregor, so amazed in the UK to the point that this guy is basically flying the flag for a sport that wouldn't even come close to boxing or football in that sphere.
Well,
but it's even harder to even come close to.
Boxing has deteriorated over the years.
UK boxing is not as much so in the UK boxing, not as much so as what everyone thinks that American boxing has. UK boxing still got rivalries, still got a lot of fighters that will try to maintain the level that boxing is a sport that is still going to draw that mass audience. MMA records are breaking every single year in the UK. Audiences are filling out in Dublin because of that man. I'm just saying that he's causing more of an effect than people are alluding to.
Keep in mind, in Dublin, of course.
It's him.
But that's one specific city to one specific country.
If they held it in the Manchester Stadium in the UK, he would say, anywhere in the UK, any stadium Conor McGregor headlines it, they'll sell out. Ronda Rousey, I don't think so.
Yeah, but what about Ronda Rousey in a neutral location?
When she took on
Brazil.
Correia in Brazil.
I said the UK.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor will sell out more tickets.
But that's what I say. So I'd say if Ronda Rousey is bigger in maybe a Brazil or a neutral location, then it might be specific just to Europe.
But it was already in Brazil.
Right.
Anderson Silva took it to Brazil. Dos Anjos took it to Brazil. These guys took it to Brazil. Who took it?
Michael Bisping.
No.
Michael Bisping.
This is point that people need to get through their head. There was UK fighters. There was Irish fighters. There was never a Conor McGregor from that world. There is now.
I still think more people know who Ronda Rousey is, just overall, because of her impact outside
He's
of the
Yanks,
sport.
and he's always will be Yanks.
Out of the sport. All right, comment below. Let us know what you guys think. The question we were proposing is who is really the more known star? Because if you're talking about UFC superstars, Conor McGregor's, I think, proven.
She hasn't fought in 2 years.
Ronda Rousey hasn't fought. So let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Everything else on social media, you can check us out there. We'll see you.